So I got invited to the Digital Social Hour podcast with Sean Kelly to be part of the 1 liberal versus 10 conservatives on July 29th in Las Vegas. I will proudly be wearing the conservative badge representing my Christian, America First worldview against this fucking guy, Mr. Brian Shapiro, the raging lib. I chose this Tim Pool video because the debate prompts for the upcoming event are going to be number 1, widespread voter fraud does not exist. 2, Trump is the worst president of all time. All time. Right? And number 3, Trump ruined the economy. Now, so we can see firsthand what Brian has in the holster for the 29th, because this video literally shows it. We're going to see if we can pinpoint the framework, the actual thinking process that Brian uses to judge what is right and wrong. All right, let's go.
Smash the like button, share the show with everyone you've ever met in your life. We got a couple people joining us to have this heated and hopefully hilarious discussion. I hope we can make it funny. Brian, what's going on? Who are you?
What's up, man? I feel like you need to buy me like a studio apartment right down the street now. That's what I think. Brian Shapiro. I've been called worse. I do a show called Pushing the Limits. And yeah, that's who I am at PTL Radio Show.
Before the show starts, he's like, how much of a raging lib should I be? Should I all the way up to 11 or just be calm and nice?
Yeah.
And I'm like, Brian's great. He's nice to you in person, but you get him on the internet and he can crank it up.
Turns on the show.
I mean, in person, I'm not always nice. Did you see any of the videos I did? Ian was hanging out with me. Ian, am I always nice in person?
No. All right, gentlemen, who's next?
What's up, guys? Siaka here. Siaka Massaquoi, father. I'm lead with that first. Actor, producer, and as you can see, I got my little ones with me. Always in my heart. And yeah, I am not a raging lib. So let's go.
And then Ian.
I'm just raging.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Let's go.
I mean,
Yeah,
sunglasses
Jim
on
Morrison,
it. Yeah.
Jim Morrison look going.
Sunglasses on
bloodshot
it.
eyes. It's so early in the morning for me.
Ian's tagline says smarter than everyone in Congress.
Oh,
I mean,
perfect. They're catching on.
Ian literally said that he was smarter than everyone in Congress.
Yeah. I got to start talking myself up more.
But the funny thing is,
So go big.
pragmatically, we're like, that's not true, Ian. They're smart people. But emotionally, I think, like, screw everyone in Congress.
Yeah.
All of them.
It gets the point across, whether
Yeah.
it's true or not.
My cat is smarter than everyone in
all of
Congress.
you.
Yeah. My dog's pretty smart.
Hey, we also got Kellen on the
On a
buttons. I didn't
on a
wanna-
side note, I always
No
wanted
man
to debate
behind
an
this.
insurrectionist, so nice to meet you, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't. I'm still. Then you're still going to be waiting because I don't have anything.
That is true.
Oh,
I was
it's starting.
never.
Here we go.
Right, misdemeanors. I don't know.
Why were you there?
I was there because I wanted to be. I'm an American.
I know, but why? Why were you there?
Because I wanted to see
Did you
history.
think the election was stolen?
Yeah, I did, and I
did.
still do.
Okay, so you're a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist then.
I mean, you think it's not, so why would you not?
Where's the
Brian Shapiro immediately tries poisoning the well. To invalidate Siaka, he believes that you must be a conspiracy nut wearing a tinfoil hat to believe that the 2020 elections suffered from some massive procedural issues. This is the arrogance of a man who operates purely on leftist media talking points rather than legal reality, or reality at all. You do not need a tinfoil hat to question the 2020 election. You merely needed to read the ruling of the Wisconsin Supreme Court in the Tegan case, which explicitly found that the absentee ballot drop boxes used to harvest votes throughout the state were entirely unlawful. Having concerns about the election does not make you a conspiracy theorist. It makes you someone who actually pays attention to the law. Now, in 2022, they did go back on this and reverse that ruling. But you'll notice that the judges who did that aligned with the Democratic Party, which brings into question the validity of that ruling, in my book.
Well, so you start off with California when they changed the rules so they can make
Where's
it.
the?
That's
I
the
didn't ask you
evidence.
about California.
That's the
Where's
evidence.
the evidence?
Can I start the evidence? Can you let me finish my sentence to continue this
so
evidence?
Trump lost California. Is that what you're saying?
No, I didn't say that.
Where's the evidence of
The evidence.
widespread
The evidence was in my house when, for 4 to 5 years in my own house, I was getting ballots for people who were dead and didn't live there.
Okay, that's not evidence. That's not evidence of widespread voter fraud.
That's part of the evidence. If you let somebody finish the sentence instead of cutting them off when they finish it, I'm going, hey.
Semantic point. That is evidence. It's not proof.
Right.
Well, so we're looking for evidence.
So let me give you guys a quick little breakdown of this. Is important for all the people who are probably mad at me saying, "What do you mean?" So here's a scenario I like to give: store clerk gets shot and killed. The police find 9mm bullet casings. He here someone says, oh, his next door neighbor hated him and they were fighting all the time. I heard him screaming. They go to the neighbor's house and they find 9mm bullet casings in front of his house. That's evidence. Then turns out the guy actually just dropped him when he was leaving, and he's been out of town for 2 weeks, so he couldn't possibly have done it. Not proof, but is evidence. So when you're getting, 10 mail-in votes to someone's house, someone says, this is evidence. There could be voter fraud because these are not requested.
Right,
They're lying around. Does it prove widespread voter fraud?
Well, so that's correct. The statement is, where is the evidence that could prove widespread voter fraud that could have changed the outcome of the 2020 election? Hold on. It's been 6.
Well, do you see what he did right there? It moves the goalposts from widespread voter fraud not existing to widespread voter fraud that proves that it could have changed the election, right?
The two idiots that keep, not you, that keep talking about this are Dinesh D'Souza, who is an imbecile, and the My Pillow idiot. Okay, no, he's not a smart guy.
No, he's really
I disagree.
smart. I met him.
2000
I hung out
Lies
with him.
was
It
a
was
bullshit
fantastic.
documentary.
He's a great
So
person.
where is your evidence that could prove that there is widespread voter fraud, that Donald Trump won the 2020 election?
So is illegally changing the rules of voting in multiple states?
That's not widespread voter fraud. That's not widespread voter fraud.
How is
you
it
cannot
not? How is it not?
It was
how is
during-
it? Hold on. Because you say the sentence and you complete it, and I start with 3 words, and then you cut off.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Let me talk.
Go ahead.
So it works out this way. If you have 2 to 3 states that change their constitution from a judicial order, which is illegal, that's part of evidence that pushes that illegal voting to be a thing.
I would argue that's proof of widespread voter fraud.
Never been proven in a court of law.
No. Hold on.
No,
There's 2 different things to consider. So if your position on this is, were people fraudulently making or filling out ballots? That's a different question from, did executives and judiciaries violate the law and constitution to create a mechanism by which people were legally capable to do these?
And this is really important because, think about it. If you make murder legal, does murder become good? No, because policy does not dictate morality, what is right and wrong. If we basically essentially make cheating legal, is it fraud? You change the definition of fraud, just like these people will change the definition of man and woman or harm or whatever to fit whatever subjective narrative they're trying to push. This is very important to watch out for this type of shit, man.
Yes.
To do these things.
Well, why did they do that?
It doesn't matter. They did it.
Why?
That's illegal.
Why did they do it?
It was illegal.
So does that mean
It doesn't
Donald
matter.
Trump
It was
won?
illegal.
That means Donald Trump.
I don't
won.
know,
You
but it was
don't
a
know.
cheating.
Okay.
That's the whole thing. That's the whole point, brother. The thing that you guys always miss is that you go, whoa, if we find there was cheating, that meant Trump won. That's not what the argument is. The argument is, why do you change the rules illegally?
That's not what Donald Trump said.
I don't care. I'm talking about me.
I do.
Well, great.
That's why a lot of idiots were there on January
when
6th.
when you get Donald Trump to sit down with you and talk to him, then that's the argument you can have with him.
But you
I'm not
support
Donald
him. You
Trump.
were there because you
I'm not.
support
Yes,
Donald
and
Trump.
yes, I do, and I did again 3 times.
Okay, well-
but the point of what I'm looking at, what I look at, Donald Trump can say what he wants. I'm my own man. That's the part you guys also miss. You think everyone's just the same person and think, well, Trump said it, so I'm going to say it. No, I look at it from the
And that's the biggest thing, too. They think that we're all just out here agreeing with whatever Trump says. I have my own criticisms of Trump, but I will say that he aligns with my worldview more than the opposition would have.
standpoint of if a judge sits there and bypasses the constitution of 3 states that allows
let's talk about that.
that allows mail-in voting when they shouldn't have, we have a problem. We have to address it. Nobody even wanted to. Why didn't they? They didn't want to because their guy won.
Okay, so let's talk about
that. Then you go,
So
okay,
you're
this
your
thing
own
wasn't even
man.
fair.
Okay, fine. Well, guess what? You're not a judge. Donald Trump had 61 opportunities in court. They all said that there was no merit. Some of those judges were actually, hold on, let me finish now. Let me finish now. Some of those judges were actually Republican appointed judges. He was 0-6.
All right, guys, I just want to pause for a second so I can put this on screen and you guys can skip through it. It's only going to be 20 seconds. This is the state-by-state breakdown showing exactly who pushed for what. And I grouped the Democratic Party alongside the civil rights organizations and progressive coalitions and the voting access groups because they align with them. So here, I'll go through it real quick. You got Wisconsin, Republicans. Here's what they did. Democrats. Right. Michigan. Georgia. Florida. And Arizona.
61 in the courts. You had a bunch of people that showed up there on January 6th. I would assume you were one of those people that believed in the lies that the election was rigged or stolen. You can say that until the cows come up. Hold on a second.
I just pointed out what was rigged.
We are 6 years later.
Just point out what was
I find it very interesting that when Donald Trump loses, it was rigged. When he won in 2016, that seemed to be just fine. When he won in 2024, that seemed to be just fine. Now I understand.
I got a fact check.
I understand. Hold on. I understand that Donald Trump said there was still cheating involved in 2016. I know what you're going to say, Tim, but the fact of the matter is that Republicans still say nothing to see here. Donald Trump won. Same thing in 2024.
We have a fact check. Trump and his campaign filed 4 to 6 lawsuits in 2020 over the election.
And how did that work out?
Between 4 and 6.
There were over 60
if the judge,
court appearances.
Those were PACs. Those were,
correct.
That's different.
Yeah. So
there was no merit. The judges ruled no merit.
That's actually not correct. But for the Trump and the Trump campaign is between 4 and 6. The issue was not merit. The issue was moot. The issue was, in the instance of many of these suits, they said the amount of ballots that would be overturned would not change the results. Therefore, it's moot. Case dismissed.
Well, the bottom line is, in our entire history of this country, Donald Trump's the only president that has not conceded an election. And I understand that
Well, that's not true because even Hillary was talking shit about her election.
you were not one of.
That's also incorrect. Come on.
Who did
the other guy?
1876.
Okay, well,
No. I mean, this is civil. This is the end of Reconstruction. The presidency was determined by a panel because there were a similar thing happened where states turned in dueling sets of electors. And then the Democrats and the Republicans sit down like, okay, this is it. Civil war.
All right, so let's just say that's 150% correct. Let's say in the past 150 years, Donald Trump is the only president to not concede an election. Now, I understand.
Moving the goalpost again. Oh, I was wrong. Here, let me switch it up real quick so I can be right again. I mean, come on, dude.
And I know this is getting into other territory, but I did a little bit of study on you, and I understand you're not a violent criminal. I understand you weren't one of those people that beat police officers, but this is a really important question because I don't know what your answer is going to be on this. Are you a hostage and a patriot if you beat a cop on January 6th?
It depends on the circumstances.
Okay, so let's go with, let's go with Daniel Rodriguez, who assaulted Michael Fanone. Michael Fanone had a stroke because of that.
Next day.
And no, you're talking about Brian Sitnick. I'm talking about Michael Fanone.
This is a question. The next day, question mark?
I know. We'll talk
Next
about,
day,
okay, I didn't know that. I thought that was a statement.
Or no.
Sicknick got hit with the
Yeah, and I'm happy to
Fire
get into that with
signature,
you
right?
as well.
Different guy?
Okay,
All
because
of it.
I've debated
All
Brian
of it.
Sitnick.
All of
but Daniel Rodriguez got 12 years in prison. Because of him attacking Officer Fanone, he had a stroke. Is that man a hostage and a patriot?
Well, again, it depends on the situation.
I just gave you the situation.
Yeah, but
is he a
what
hostage
was
and a
happening to him
patriot?
before
What are you talking about? What happened to him before? He assaulted a cop. What are you talking about?
What happened? Like, for example, did you see the videos, which I have, when they were standing there peacefully? DC Metro comes in, starts firing pepper balls at everyone, and forced them back.
So you're saying Michael Fanone deserved to be physically assaulted?
Let's
I'm saying this. I'm saying scenarios are different for every situation, and we have to talk about it clearly. When they are attacking people, and someone's like, "What am I doing?" and they fight back.
So hold on, let me get this right.
Wait, real quick. Yeah. We got to go back to the chain of events for January 6th before we even get to that point. The barricades are set up around the Capitol building, and at some point, protesters tear them down.
They move them outside. I've seen the video.
Well,
the guy
they knock the barricades over, push them aside, and enter into a closed property.
By the way, on that, the individual in the video I've seen with my lawyer when I was in D.C. for my case, there's a man removing those barricades. They have yet to even identify.
Of course. Okay, but the point I'm making is, I get all that. The point I'm making is, you're bringing up that the police. This is true. The people are all standing on the Capitol. Nobody's smashing anything. Nobody's fighting. Right. And the police start shooting pepper balls and throwing flashbangs.
Right.
However, they've already bypassed the barricades into a closed space and are now swarming around the Capitol. So it's not surprising.
No, that's not. But here, Tim, that's not true. The group that went there was about 25 people who removed the barricades. By the time
I understand, but that's not the point.
No, the point is, if you don't know you're breaking the law and then people are attacking you, you're like, what's going on?
That's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is a lot of people say the police started attacking the crowd, inciting violence. Yeah. But you have to look at it holistically. I understand. And I make this argument all the time. There are tons of people who did not know there was any crime or anything wrong with walking up to a public building.
Right.
The barricades had been removed, and Cenk Uygur screamed at me about this because he didn't know the law. He didn't know what happened. I said, you cannot legally charge someone with trespass without having given them a warning of trespass.
Right.
And if barricades have been physically removed from public grounds and
no
you're walking
warning.
your dog and you walk on the sidewalk, you can't trespass that person.
There's no
Hold on.
criminal intent.
My point is, when you have, we're not talking about people that are walking around the grounds. We're talking about the specific area where you have what appears to be about 1,000 or so individuals, and they are protesting and have someone removed these, and they all came in. It is true a lot of these people, I'd say most of them, did not expect the police to start firing pepper balls or throwing flashbangs. Now let's talk about what the police are experiencing. The police are seeing a crowd of 1,000 people having knocked the barricades down, coming up to the front of the building, and they say, we have to disperse this crowd.
Right.
They're going to use crowd control in that regard. I don't blame either side. I don't blame the individuals who did not know. I blame the individuals who tore the barricades down.
Right.
But listen, we look at like Antifa protests or ICE protests.
Yep. I was just going to say that.
Police are going to initiate crowd control against a group.
Right,
Yes.
right.
So
No, I don't
again,
understand that, but the crowd control in front of an ICE facility, stopping
that-
people from coming and going, and people at this time, with the understanding, like myself, that this is okay for you to be walking over here, it doesn't sit in the same mindset when you're sitting there and you're standing there peacefully protesting, as the left was saying, while the fires were behind them for a whole summer.
Who said that?
But
CNN.
You're taking it completely out of context. That video, that's bullshit. What you just
but hold on.
One where he said it is mostly peaceful protests over in Ferguson.
Okay, so
are you kidding me?
First of all,
when the buildings were burning.
First of all, there was one CNN anchor that used similar verbiage like that.
Well, I think it was.
And there were tens of millions of people that were protesting. Of the tens of millions of people that were protesting across the country, yes, most of those people were not violent. I would even go as far as to say January 6th. There were about 50 to 100,000 people that were there that day. 1,500 people.
250,000.
Was it that much?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
more than that. Great. That proves my point even better. Let's just say 250,000. Of those people, 1,500 people were arrested. About 600 of those people violent. And when you see and when you see a guy like Andrew Paul Johnson, for example, who Donald Trump pardoned, he just got life in prison for sexually molesting 2 children. Bradley Tyler Dykes, who did a Hitler salute while he was physically assaulting police officers. So this bullshit narrative that all these people were getting hit with these pellet or whatever balls or whatever.
They died from that. What bullshit? What bullshit narrative? There's men.
You're saying the 600 people that assaulted cops, they all were antagonists. So will.
Wow. Observe the mental gymnastics at play here. When cities are literally burning behind a CNN reporter, which we all seen, Brian claims it's taken out of context because millions were peaceful. But when he admits that 250,000 people, which he didn't even know at first, he tried to diminish it, people were at the Capitol and only 600 were violent, meaning 99.7% of the crowd committed zero violence. Suddenly, the concept of a mostly peaceful protest is a myth to him.
Say right now.
I said people.
So will you say right now that some of these people that I have listed, like the officer who put Fanone in a stroke, like Tyler Dykes, who did a Hitler salute while he was assaulting cops, these are people who Donald Trump pardoned, the man who you voted for 3 times.
Yes.
Will you call these specific people out and say, no, these are not hostages and patriots?
They were violent. They were violent people.
Are they hostages and patriots?
I don't know their full case. I can't say that.
Christ.
Well,
But they're violent individuals that
you can't.
Hold on. There's violent individuals that deserve to get the full extent of the law for their violence. I do agree.
They were
with
pardoned. They didn't serve. They served a couple years.
They deserve to be pardoned.
that. So wait.
100%.
Well, you're
under the law.
You're morally wrong.
Yeah, under the law, what is the law for assaulting a cop? And then when they went to court and they got that, they were sentenced to their time.
Let me.
You
I
want
wanna bring
more?
Ian.
Like,
what was that thing
then that's
where?
something else.
What was that thing where that president pardoned all those insurrectionists that you always
That
like
was
to talk?
Shays Rebellion. That was
Tell me about that.
after the Civil War. The farmers that had gone
Wait,
off.
Civil War?
I'm sorry, the Revolutionary War. The farmers that had gone off to fight in the war now came back, and they were all their farms were in debt because they hadn't been working for years fighting the war. So the government, the city, was like, well, we're not going to take your soft currency anymore, which is like your barter, your trade. We need hard currency to pay back the French. So farmers give us money. And the farmers like, we don't have silver. So they're like, then we're going to take your farms. And all the farmers then go to the capital. I think this is up north in Massachusetts or something in that area. And they revolt. They surround the capital, the courts. Massive violence. All these people get arrested, and then
Insurrection.
Yeah, one of the presidents, I think it was John Adams.
I thought it was Jefferson.
Might have been Jefferson.
He pardoned them all.
And they just. Oh, no, it's actually John Hancock, the governor at the time, decided the only way out of this is through it and pardoned everybody. He's like, look, this is past trauma, it's past injury, and there's no way forward if we harm half the country right now. So we're pardoning everyone and moving forward.
So I want to bring up
ringleaders.
The issue with the first thing I'm going to say, you name these specific individuals and they sound like bad people. But I don't think it's fair to ask someone to condemn an individual they don't know anything about just on your word. If you said, well, you condemn John Smith, I'd be like, look, I don't know who the guy is.
Give me a little context on who John Smith is. And if you tell me John Smith did a Hitler salute and then he assaulted police officers, Tim, I don't have to know him personally to say that is an awful human being and he deserves everything he gets.
Yeah, no,
you won't say that.
But you are still incorrect.
Every scenario is different.
I'm not going to just trust what you're saying is true and insult another person.
Look it up.
No, I understand that. My point is not on this specific individual. By all means, we can say, don't do these things. They're bad things to do. But I'm just saying in a debate to be like, here's one specific individual, here's another.
I'm not giving you one. I can give you plenty.
And I'm going to explain why these people needed to be pardoned. The first question that anyone needs to ask is, what is the amount of time an individual typically gets on a first offense for assaulting an officer?
Right.
Is it 3 years in solitary? Solitary is considered torture by many countries.
Depends if they have a record. It's a case-by-case basis.
First offense.
Do you know when someone would get solitary when we were in jail? When they fight, when they're like excessively insubordinate, when they break a massive rule. You don't just go into jail and immediately get put into solitary. Now, granted, when you're going to prison, you get put in Jackson for your quarantine. That's a little different, but not the point.
Right. It depends. Now, I can give you my personal opinion on what I think about assaulting police officers, whether it's black.
That's all you have, Brian, is your personal opinion. I challenge you to give me a coherent framework for how you judge things are right and wrong. Because what I've been seeing is you just pick whatever like aligns with your narrative, bro.
Black Lives Matter or January 6th, I would say, in my personal opinion, if you assault a police officer, which is a horrific crime.
First offense at a protest.
I think it should be a minimum of 3 to 4 years in jail. If you assault a cop,
but this guy
very
did
serious crime.
And you know what? You can fact check me on this. I'm pretty sure it's true. I looked up some numbers earlier. And also in my own experience, when I was a liberal and all the people around me, almost all of them were liberal. Lansing, Flint, Saginaw, right? They're all violent. We were all mentally ill people, dude. I'm telling you, we were all crazy, drug addicts, prone to outbursts. And the reason is, if you start looking at the stats of the people on the left, you're going to start seeing more fatherlessness, more people who like believe in anarchy or believe in nothing, like nihilists, atheism. You might say, well, these people are all entitled to believe whatever they want, and they are. That's not my point. My point is decisions get framed by your beliefs. And if you don't believe that anything matters, or that people are made in the image of God, or that they have inherent value, or that people on the right are Nazis, that's going to frame your decisions and how you see reality, how you perceive things, which makes violence an option, which makes political violence an option. It's the ideologies on the left that are the problem, dude.
This guy did serve that time. And so the issue with the pardons is there are people that probably should not have been pardoned. But the problem is that I have personally met individuals. I met a woman, her and her husband got 18 months in prison, in federal prison, for misdemeanors because around like 3 or 4 o'clock, I can't remember the exact time. This is after this all violence. Nothing, everything's cleared out. People are already leaving. They were walking through D.C.
Yeah.
They come to the Capitol building where there are no barricades. They're on the other side where there was no violence.
Yeah.
They walked up the stairs where the doors are open, and they walked inside and asked people what was going on. And the police said, there's a protest.
I know what you're talking about. I know this story.
They then left. And then a year later, feds kicked their doors in front of their children and arrested them. And the judge refused to allow them to present evidence that was exculpatory.
So, Tim, that's wrong. And
Indeed.
I
Hold
agree.
on.
The
I agree.
majority of those things
there's
are wrong. that they
hundreds.
I'm not,
treated.
and listen, I've been very consistent on my opinions on this.
Yeah, but
I'll
you-
even take your circumstance. I believe that there's no question that there were people that were overcharged. There's no question that there were certain situations where it was politically motivated. And in those specific situations, completely agree with everybody in this
so
room.
here's the issue.
But I'm talking
When the
about the most
government-
violent.
Just now, out of his own mouth, out of Brian Shap's own mouth, he just admitted that there were politically motivated prosecutions and that people were overcharged. Yet he spends the entire debate acting as a hostile apologist for the very Department of Justice executing these political prosecutions. You cannot claim to oppose political overreach while simultaneously being a cheerleader for the administration doing it, Brian. It is the hallmark of a fundamentally dishonest political commentator who runs strictly on his own feelings. If Brian likes it, if it agrees with the narrative Brian is pushing, then it's good. Period. Doesn't agree with Brian, then it's bad. Period.
Criminals.
Yeah, and I
but
agree.
again,
did I not just
listen.
say violence, that he deserved to get punished for his violence? Did I not just say that?
Trump called all those people
I don't
hostages
care.
and
Yes,
patriots.
yes,
I
yes.
do.
But now we have to.
But here's the thing. Yeah, you were going to go on the point. Sorry, go ahead.
My point is, when you have a mass prosecutorial event that is proven malicious, we just wipe it out. You have no choice. That's why I brought up Shays Rebellion. Owen Schroyer was permitted to be there. He in the InfoWars guys had a permit to be outside the Capitol doing a rally. He never entered the building. He was walking around with a bullhorn. When they convicted him and sentenced him to he went to federal prison, I think, right, for 2 or 3 months. When he went to prison, when they were sentencing him, they explicitly stated that because in the interim after conviction, he went on his show and spoke politically about his views and support for Trump, he deserved extra time in prison. So when something like that happens, and you know the prosecution has said, we will target you for your politics and we will punish you for supporting Trump, the only thing you can do is say, we are wiping the slate off. Now, with all that being said, these bad guys who hit cops and everything went to prison for 3 years.
I don't think it's enough.
And some got solitary confinement.
Well, change the law. And the biggest problem
It wouldn't matter if you.
Just pull the Brian. You don't like it, bro? Change the law. It's not cheating if it's the law, right? It's not breaking the law. It's not assault if it's whatever. Yeah, you get it.
Law because he would have pardoned them.
The biggest problem that I have with where people like you come with your arguments is that you focus on those and you don't focus on the innocent people who did.
No, I have.
The grandmother. No, you don't.
You're
do
wrong.
It with,
You're wrong. You don't listen to my show. I know Pam Hempel. I've interviewed her. I've interviewed
You don't do it with this passion.
You're wrong.
You don't.
You're wrong.
I've watched enough of you that you don't do
You're
it
wrong.
with this passion.
What people have I
You don't
interviewed on January
You don't go.
6th?
You don't go out and go, hey, you know what was wrong? The fact they didn't let them use their own evidence off their phone to sit there and prove themselves.
Exculpatory
The fact
evidence
that
was barred.
They wouldn't let them use evidence, man.
So
That's
first,
like the judicial wouldn't do that, and no one. So many people on the other side of the fence sat there and go, "I don't care. You're a problem because you're a Trump supporter."
You got to understand.
That's the
well,
problem.
You got to
man.
understand.
first of
Brian's,
all-
you got to understand. Brian's a fascist, and he believes that in judicial proceedings,
Definitely not.
the government should be allowed to bar
Definitely
individuals from bringing in exculpatory evidence.
Can I ask you, what did you say about? I'm definitely not a fascist. What did you say
joking.
about? What did you say about Brian Sitnick? He did die the next day. You don't think it had anything to do with?
No.
what took
I
place that
said he
day?
died the next day.
Right. Did
Question.
you feel like what
I
happened
don't
that day
know.
might have played a role?
I don't know. He died of a stroke.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
what I do know. Which
Are you
is
aware
not
of
just-
what the
wait.
coroner said?
The coroner said that January 6th did have something to do with it.
Correct.
But when you talk about strokes and you talk about plaque going into your brain, that doesn't happen in a day.
What about the
that happens? Wait, that happens in a lifetime of.
But
bad
hold on.
decisions.
Okay. Well,
We can't just say, "Oh, it's
here's what
only
I'm gonna
because of
say
they
to
said
that.
natural causes.
Okay, but but here's what here's what he also said. He also the medical examiner noted, and you're correct, that the violence and what he endured that day, including getting assaulted with a chemical substance, played a role in his condition.
Eating like crap. Does that play a
Okay,
role too?
so there.
I look. Ashley Babbitt got shot and killed, so it's like I don't think we
Absolutely.
play. We don't play
But
this.
how many? I mean, how many protesters died that day? How many protesters?
There was
were killed?
another.
5?
There was Ashley Babbitt. There was a woman, I believe, that had a heart attack and she was trampled that day.
Yeah, one guy fell off.
One guy was
got- he-
pushed.
Listen,
Oh,
it was
really?
a
He was
horrible. It was a horrible day.
But there's
for this country.
nobody on the other side going, wow, these people who didn't know what was going on, she shouldn't have been beaten to death. This one woman shouldn't have her brain scrambled and then get kicked out of her apartment because she can't work because she was in a tunnel
It's
and
all
a woman was
terrible.
cracked.
It's
Yes.
all terrible.
Why that's the part we're waiting for. Because all you guys want to do is sit there and go, you beat cops, you beat cops. What about everyone else who had their life ruined? What about the fact that I was on a list that I couldn't fly for 3 years and not charged with a damn crime? That's fascism, and no one ever talks about that.
here's what I'll
Why don't
say.
we ever talk about that?
Here's what I'll
Why don't we
say.
ever care about that?
Here's
Yeah, Brian, right in the beginning, you called him an insurrectionist. There's no charge. There's no conviction. Where do you get off calling him that, man? Just more poisoning the well.
what I'll say.
They beat the cops, and that's it. They beat the cops.
Here's what I'll say.
My whole career was ruined because
Okay.
I just was standing someplace, and they painted.
Your
they
career is
painted.
ruined?
No, was.
He got pardoned, right?
No, until I just leaned all hard in.
Okay,
Right.
so here's what I'll say to
like I'm
that.
done with the left.
Here's my
roll with
number
it.
one concern.
Right.
Okay, beyond somebody's career, I think about the families who have lost loved ones. I think about the officers who have traumatic brain injury. I think about people who have injuries that they have to suffer through for the rest of their lives. The
Where a lot of them
140
were
officers.
J6ers.
Does he think about all of the cognitive dissonance that all of the men had to go through as we lived through this woke ideology being pushed and forced onto us, and we were ostracized if we didn't conform to it? I've lost friends. I've gotten fights. I've been yelled at, screamed at. I used to bartend in Lansing, dude. I used to bartend at the in Lansing. I could look right at the Capitol building. The trans people there, and the women, honestly, like all these bar hopping women, crazy, mean, evil, degenerate, gross. Most of them are coke fiends, drinking every day. But the trans people, dude, I'm talking big dudes in bras and dresses. They're mean. They were mean, and I tried to be nice, dude. I got yelled at one day because I called one of them bro. I called a dude bro. He thought he was a chick, but I'm just saying. I called everyone bro. I called girls bro, my mom bro, dad bro. It was like they demanded conformity, submission. They demanded submission. And it drove me insane, dude, because I knew it wasn't right. I knew I was being manipulated. I was being demonized for being logical, for being reasonable, for being rational. It drove me nuts, and I was trying to get out of an addiction that I had dealt with my whole life. Every time I would get sober, I would go back into this new culture of hookup culture. Everything's drugs, drinking, and hooking up, dude. How are addicts even supposed to escape that? I know it doesn't have much to do with this. That's what he's pushing, the left.
A lot of them were J6ers that were just standing there, bro.
Again,
how come you don't think about them? And this has proved my point because as you're bringing out who you think about,
you didn't
don't
hear
even
what I
go
just
to
said. The problem is you don't
think
listen.
about the 106 police officers that you're going to go down the list that who had injuries, but you didn't open a word about the guy who was pushed off the stairs.
You're not listening to my words, so I'll repeat myself once again. The people who were injured, yes, there were officers that had traumatic brain injury, but anybody who was injured that day that didn't commit any crimes, I absolutely feel for.
So why? Let me ask you, why do you not see the government go after these people in a way that was not even, it wasn't even reasonable? And they ruined their lives, bro. And I don't hear a word. I don't hear a word from the other side about average people having the weight of the most powerful government. And the other side I don't hear is the fact that the lack of security. No one goes, how did these random people just get in here? As opposed to, it's supposed to be the most protected areas. Yet if you had your bodyguard, who you said was awesome, if he dropped the ball, you're not going to just be mad at the person that attacked you. You're going to be mad at this individual that you hired to do a certain job.
The president of the United States.
And no, that's not the job. Do you know the law? Who controls the security? Who controls the security?
Law, and I understand.
Who controls the security at that place?
I understand a couple things there. First of all, Donald Trump had the power.
Who
has the power to call in the National Guard? Did he not?
Who controls?
I'm asking you.
Did he not try to?
I'm asking you.
Did he not try to?
What did he do?
Did he not try to?
What did he do that day?
He asked them, "Do you guys want this?"
The January 6th Commission
investigated
investigated
"Do you want this?"
All right, guys.
He said he wanted. Who controls the security at the Capitol?
Donald Trump is the president of the United States.
Who controls?
Donald Trump had the power to call in the National Guard.
That's not the question I asked you.
He did not do that.
That's not the question I asked you.
It's been proven.
Can you please
he did not do that. What you said is incorrect.
No, it's not. Can you please answer my question before we move on? Can you answer that question? Who's in charge of security for the?
Well, obviously you could point the finger as well at Nancy Pelosi.
Okay, thank you.
Donald,
Let's move on.
but
I suppose.
Tim, what you're going to say?
That proves it.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
But
Tim.
Donald Trump called in the National Guard within the flip of
I want
a finger
to. I want to.
a couple months back, did he not?
I want to bring this into the modern
Nancy Pelosi
era.
didn't do that.
Because there's a couple things that are going on since then, so we'll move forward. Yeah. But the last thing I'll just say on the issue, because you made a point, is I'll use one example. There's a woman who lives in Alaska. Mm-hmm. The feds raided her home because
a friend of mine.
She looked like somebody who was in the Capitol.
Right.
So they raided her home. I mean, this is pretty crazy. That's not evidence. That's shocking.
Yeah.
So I think the issue that Siaka brings up, that I often bring up, is I sit down with somebody and they say someone punched a cop. I'm like, those people all deserve prison. Assaulted an officer, first offense.
They're not hostage and patriots. They don't deserve money. They didn't deserve
hold on. That's a different question. The people who are violent, the people who tear down barricades and smash windows, all deserve prison. But here's the issue. When I pointed out the majority of people who are actually charged, largely with misdemeanors, you have more than half of the people on the other side of the building where there's no riot. The rioters on one side of the building get in, and they go and open doors or on the other side. Internally, the police themselves open doors.
Right.
Then there's a bunch of people walking around, and what do they see? The doors were opened, and this is a public building.
In my video, you hear me go, "Is this where they're letting people in?"
There were
They
people.
Go, yep.
There were no.
Right.
You have made statements that are incorrect. You've first of all, how many officers let people in, and how many officers were working that day?
But
The one that I saw, there was 2 cops right there, and then there was a line of
Okay.
cops.
But again,
Hold on.
again,
And then there was a
again.
line of cops
Can I just
standing there,
respond
not
to what he
doing
just
anything.
said? So some
Not
of those
doing anything.
Some of those
Chatting,
cops,
kicking it.
some of those cops testified under oath. And some of those cops said, which I completely agree with, makes complete sense to me. If you have one cop per, say, 100 people, and you have an armed officer there, you basically have 2 choices. Choice number 1, you take out your gun, you point it, and maybe start shooting at people, which I think everyone here would agree we didn't want them to do. Number 2, you let them in. You have 2 choices in that situation. Why would you
don't.
criticize?
So notice what Brian does here. It's pretty funny. He tries to put us into a false dialectic, also a fallacy. He tries to say, if you only have 1 cop per 100 people or whatever, that you only have 2 choices. You either pop off some rounds into the crowd and start killing people, or you just let them in. But this is quite false, especially if anyone's played Call of Duty or ever looked into any type of crowd control, riot control, peaceful protest control, right? You got riot shields. You got the whole riot formation. We got tear gas, flashbangs, isolating them into choke points. There's all kinds of shit that could have been done. But no, Brian tries to box us in to this false dialectic so that he can try to make his point. Another deceptive and sophist tactic, par on course for the left.
With some people, sure.
It worked with our
Okay,
group.
guess what? It worked with you.
Because
Hold
they
on.
talked about it.
Hold on.
And you
It
know
worked-
what? The problem
it
is
worked with
they
you.
shouldn't have came to my house with 15 agents
That's
and
a
guns
different-
in my face.
that's a different-
No, but that's
different
the
circumstance.
problem. That's the ultimate
hold on.
problem,
I'll get
brother.
to that in a moment.
That's the thing.
I'll get to that in a moment.
So when you're talking about,
That's-
there were cops standing
Hold
around.
on.
I was talking to them.
That's a
and they didn't
different-
say shit.
Hold on a
Sorry.
second. Hold on.
he's
Didn't say
already been
anything.
swearing.
I didn't even.
That's what you're talking about. I'm happy to talk about that with you, but that's not what I'm referring to right now.
Right.
All I'm simply saying is maybe with somebody like you, when an officer says, you can't go in here, leave, maybe it would work with somebody like you. I guess it did. But there were people that they were violent people, some of them. They weren't listening to Capitol Police. So I'm going back to what I said earlier. You have 2 choices. When you have people that appear to be a threat to you, that could hurt you, that appear to be violent people, you have 2 choices if you're an officer with a gun.
Where
You
was-
either
I wonder if he would have that same exact standard to the ICE officers involved in their mostly peaceful protests. Would he say the same thing to Renee Good or Preddy? I don't know. Probably not.
hold on, you either take out your gun and start shooting them or you let them in. By the way, if you're in a bank, okay, and there's a security guard at the safe and he says, come right in, does that give you the right to go in there and steal money from the safe? No, of course
Stealing
not.
is wrong.
I'm just telling you.
Actually, hold on. That does create interesting legal problems.
Maybe, perhaps, but that doesn't
security
mean
guard
you
is-
can go in there and just steal all the money.
No.
from the bank.
Actually, depending on the circumstances, you may have a hard time prosecuting that case.
Right, 'cause the
an
cop
individual
will-
standing in a bank and the security guard says, "No, you're free to enter," and they go, "Oh, okay."
The security guard would be breaking the law.
So here's I got
So to defend this, Brian gives us this absolutely absurd analogy about a bank vault to try to prove that cops letting people into the Capitol doesn't matter legally. But let's step out of Brian's hypothetical utopian universe and into an actual United States federal courtroom for a second. Brian claims that a cop letting you in doesn't mitigate a crime. Well, Someone should tell U.S. District Judge Trevor McFadden, who acquitted a man named Matthew Martin, of entering a restricted building specifically because video evidence showed a Capitol police officer waving him inside. When a heavily armed police officer waves you into a public, taxpayer-funded building, federal law recognizes that you lack criminal intent. Brian is inventing some standard of law, making shit up in his head out of thin air that actual federal judges have already thrown in the trash. He is completely, undeniably, legally illiterate on this topic.
Something for you, and the first thing I'm going to tell you is I'm about to say something. You're going to give me an incorrect response. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to say is, and get ready
Tim's got his whole fucking debate style down to a T, bro.
For it. January 6th is proven to have been an inside job.
Yep.
Confirmed.
Yep.
And I'm going to prove it to you. I can prove it to you. Now, give me your response first.
So,
and then I'm going to explain to you why it's true, actually.
So, claims that the FBI
I didn't say that.
Orchestrated January 6th.
I never said that.
You never said that. Okay.
Nope, I said it was inside job.
Okay, by who?
By police.
Okay, so there was an investigation in 2021 of it allegedly being an inside job. That was debunked. The report came out in 2024. I know you didn't. There were no undercover agents that were there. There were 0 full-time undercover FBI employees that were present in the protest.
Okay, wait, no, stop.
Sorry.
I'm just going by the report that came out.
I need this response because this is important for everybody who's listening right now, so I can explain.
Now, there were informants that were present.
So the reason why I asked this question in the way that I did, and the reason why I got to pause you, Siaka, is you have changed the definition of inside job to fit this narrative.
Well, who was it? Tell me.
Okay, so hold on. The next thing I want to ask people is, what is your understanding of what an inside job is? Well, so let's start with a bank robbery. When there's a bank robbery and the police are investigating and they say this appears to be an inside job, does this mean that they were undercover federal agents? Does it mean that the head of the bank was in on it? Does it mean that the head of the bank brought in a bunch of like 7 or 8 security guards to orchestrate a big robbery? It does not. It could. But typically it refers to a single low-level employee who provided aid to the criminals in some capacity. So an inside job at a bank, almost 80% of the time, 90% of the time, they're not usually referring to the CEO of the bank setting up a robbery. They're referring to a janitor propping open a back door with a broom so that the bad guys can sneak in the back. An inside job just means someone working within this bank aided those criminals.
I understand what your definition is.
So there are a few things to consider. First, did you know that a man was acquitted specifically because the police fanned him into the building?
No, I'm unaware of that.
There is a man who was acquitted. This is early on.
Black dude, right?
I think
he's the only one. He's a gay.
He showed video where the police officer waved him into the building, and he points and he's like, and he walked in. They then criminally charged him, and he says, "This officer invited me into the building." That's an inside job. I'm not suggesting the FBI orchestrated January.
You think the FBI it was an inside job with the FBI?
No, I don't.
You don't. Okay.
Matthew Martin was that guy's name who got acquitted.
And this was a big deal.
Yeah.
And this is when I brought up the point that, Cenk Uygur snapped on his show screaming and ranting about. I said, when a cop waves you to come on in, you can't trespass a person who was just asked to enter. Right. Now, there's more. Inside the building, whatever your argument is as to who is violent, we know that there were a lot of violent people. We know that some people entered the other side of the building, and that's why they weren't charged with felonies. They were charged with misdemeanor trespass.
Right.
However, there is surveillance footage showing the shaman being walked with the police, and they opened the door. That is the definition of an inside job. Now, hold on. I've heard your argument about you have two choices, a gun, or you let him in. But the shaman was by himself, surrounded by 7 or 8 police officers who said, "Come with me, sir, right this way," and walked him into the Senate chambers.
Yeah, I saw that video.
That is an inside job.
I know. Okay, so let me respond to that real quickly. So as you know, Tim, there are a lot of people on the extreme right that say that it was an FBI inside job. I know you're not saying that.
Right.
But here's the deal, right? Kash Patel, about 6 months ago, made statements saying that there were going to be arrests, that it was an inside job. That they literally have made statements like that within the Trump administration. Mm-hmm. If, in fact, there are people that broke the law and there's some sort of inside job, then where are the arrests? Let's present that evidence in a courtroom. I saw what is it? The shaman? Is that how you pronounce his name?
Shaman?
Whatever the fuck his name is.
That's Michael Jackson's little interlude. And
I've interviewed that clown.
Jacob Chansley is.
Yeah, Jacob.
He's not a Trump guy, but
You know, I wonder if Brian gives this type of prudence or diligence to Trump, you know, when he calls him a pedophile all the time. There is no charge. There is no conviction, Brian. Stop calling Trump a pedophile. Okay?
by the way.
I know, but he's a clown living in his mom's basement. I've interviewed him before. He ran for office. He got destroyed. He got embarrassed. He's got an IQ of about 20. But anyway, that was
Oh,
weird.
that's not fair.
That was weird video. I did see that, and I'm hearing you. All I'm simply saying is, we keep hearing from the Trump administration, inside job, inside job. There's going to be arrest. Well, Cash, where the hell are the arrests? I keep hearing these arrests are coming.
Agreed.
Yeah. So like you think you keep hearing it like that. Who do you think's more frustrated about that? You or me?
Well,
Yeah.
we all agree we want to see action.
No, but
under the presumption that they're making these claims.
But the point I make on that is the fact that, dude, those arrests vindicate and the belief that we have in so many nonviolent, especially nonviolent, even some that killed themselves, J6ers, want to see.
What do you
guys-
think about
you guys-
arresting and then pardoning those people?
The ones that the inside.
Yeah.
jobs.
After 3 years of solitary, maybe we'll.
Yeah, maybe we'll talk about it.
should be
But here
prison.
again, and we were talking about this earlier. I personally think J6 was more than just like, oh, hey, let's present it as insurrection for one side and let's like freedom fighters for others. To me, part of it was government working on technology to be able to come and find all of us in a certain way. And everyone that crossed that border onto the grass got their phone pings that we talked about before. A lady who was pregnant at the time, just got pregnant, she was standing on the grass. She was put under 9 months of house arrest because she was an insurrection by January 6th. She also then never threatened to take her baby away because they were being terrorists.
Let me ask
bro.
you a question.
They were being
Did
terrorists.
Donald Trump's behaviors that day bother you at all? 4 hours, he did nothing. He sat on his ass and he did nothing.
His behavior, he said peacefully and patriotically.
I'm not
protest.
fight like
Let me-
hell.
let me-
I'm not talking
wait,
about
wait.
the state. Hold on. I'm not talking
fight-
about. I'm not
Wait.
talking about just the statements he made before.
Okay.
I'm talking
Okay.
about the 3.5 to 4 hours when he
Yeah.
was.
I'm not talking about the things that make my narrative look false. I'm not talking about the things that make it look like he tried to have a peaceful process. I'm talking about the things that go with my narrative that he was inciting an insurrection, okay? Stop talking about that stuff and listen to my stuff.
Asked and begged by members of his administration
Right.
to put out a video.
Okay, wait, hold on.
He did nothing
Okay,
for
he
did
3
put out
hours.
the
So
video.
hold on,
3
guys.
hours later.
Let's pull it into the future.
Right?
Let's
and then why does Nancy Pelosi
Okay.
not get
There
any?
you go with Nancy Pelosi.
So guys,
She's
okay.
in charge, dude.
Okay, guys.
She's not in charge of the.
We're gonna move forward, and we're gonna try and make.
This is the.
We're gonna move forward because
Real quick, please,
we're-
real quick. This is the problem. It's everything's Trump's fault, but the people who actually can be held responsible for
Which is
good
what I'm
decisions,
trying to
Why
set
did
up.
you call out the National Guard in
Why
5
did you
minutes
just
a couple
turn it
months
off?
ago?
Guys,
Why did you have 5 people?
We're gonna
Then
mute
why-
you. We're gonna mute you guys in 3 seconds
Yeah.
because you're starting to debate something we debated 20 minutes ago
Yeah.
again.
He brought that up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next question we have is on the merits.
Don't censor me, Tim.
I will censor you, brother.
All right, well, on that note, I'm going to end it right here. I think I've seen and heard enough of this fucking guy, Brian Shapiro, for one night. As we have seen in this debate, clearly, Shapiro uses the big book of Brian to determine everything. He uses deceptive tactics, weaponized framing, subjective morality, double standards. He hangs out with fallacies like he hangs out with only models. And if my observations hold any weight, this man thinks himself and his opinions superior to everyone else's. He only says things that he thinks will make him look good in the eyes of the left. And if he thinks it'll make him look bad, he'll walk it back and rearrange his argumentation. Anyways, I look forward to this debate in Vegas. And if you guys have any pointers, advice, stats, surveys, whatever you think that will help, I will gladly accept. Thanks for watching, guys. Like and share the video, subscribe for more, stay unchained.